You want an effective resume, and there are probably a million to choose from, not all of them effective. Well, effective is a funny word because really, many times resumes are sent out and they don't draw a response. It's part of the nature of the beast. Right now, you can send your resume, provided you have a reasonably good cover letter. You can send it on the internet and be one of a pool of several hundred, maybe even thousand resumes for the prospective employer to consider. We kind of have to recognize effective means one in 100, one in 100 tries, or three in 100 tries. These are numbers that we often hear are effective resumes. If you send them out to 100 different prospective employers and you get three good interviews from it, that's supposedly really good. Well, it's relatively good. Very big standard, especially considering that there's so many huge pools of possible candidates. Therefore, there's a bit of caution involved in this. Yes, they're effective, keeping in mind that we're going to use these resumes uh, to be put into a pool with many potential candidates. How are you going to make yours stand out, especially if you're new to the employment field? Well, the way we all tend to work this problem is we take a resume and make it what they call a functional resume. Um, we highlight the skills you have, qualifications as skills, especially since you may not have much experience in the field in which you are applying this resume to gain employment with. So here we go. Might as well share with you a second, share with you a resume for your consideration that employs this kind of group of skills. All right, let's look. All right, let's bring her out. What we have, of course, typically when we have a resume for employment, you are looking to make it as clean with as many easy to read elements as possible. Generally speaking, we try to stay away from graphics that slow us down, but at the same time, we're not afraid to use them to enhance our experience. So the very first thing you'll notice, at least in the resume I recommend as a traditional resume writer, that you are going to benefit from an easy, clean, old school typeface. That is one with serifs, which are these cute little weighted uh, letters and tops. You might see it right here. If I can use my pointer, if I'm lucky, I'll find a pointer here. It disappears. Okay, you see that each of these letters has a certain amount of weight in different areas and also has different little uh, additions to it that make the eye glide and make it easier for you to read. Now, employers don't know this. A graphic artist, old school graphic artist, probably does and will seek to use a serif type, old typeface. We call them old typefaces, like your book is an example. Any book is typically written in Times New Roman for this reason, because it makes reading large quantities of data easier upon the reader. Now, if you have a gentleman or a lady reading your resume and has another 100 more to look through, you want that to be as easy to read and psychically, that is, in the back of this person's skull, make the person think this has been okay. This is nice to read. Something about it should be nice. Well, of course, it should not have any glaring errors, but more than that, it should be inviting in a way that, gets your brain psychically to enjoy it. That is, you enjoy a clean looking resume, something that's pleasant, something that makes your eyes glide over the top, moving along, having good amounts of material to read, but not too much. And of course, putting it in a typeface that's easy to understand in one's brain. So we don't often do too much graphically with these. As I said, we want to keep it plain. So to keep it plain, readable, easy to read, I kind of have this one set up justified in the left with one's name in large letters and small letters following to sort of emphasize your title, to give it a certain sense of rich. You can put your name right here. Nothing would stop you from taking all of this and centering it like this, and that would look pretty nice also. Either way, the most important part of this is, of course, the name right here. I will make up one right now, who is not me. Here is Richard Stevens. And just so that you get the idea of what this looks like, you can, I think I would probably not bold it, but let's give it a shot. And it may be okay. I kind of like it plain and readable. And of course, if you have your A and P, you can leave that in bold or make it smaller. Again, I think the first choice here, having tried this out a bit, this looks pretty good. And of course, your avenue, your city, your state, CA, it's an acceptable abbreviation, by the way. We tend not to use abbreviations in resumes, but in this one case, a postal abbreviation, capital C, capital A, is well understood. Again, your cell phone, select a phone that will be professionally answered. And again, everything about this is trying to encourage them to employ you. So you're going to select your cell phone and hopefully answer it professionally, not leave ridiculous messages over there that if someone placed a call to, you would think, or they would think you to be a goofball. All right. Same with your handle, your email name, a nice professional handle here. Please don't find something witty and terrific. This is not a time to be witty, even though you might be terrific. This is a place where you want to encourage the reader that you are a competent candidate. Serious, especially if you're looking for employment in aviation, your sense of humor is probably as bad as mine. No, what I mean to say is there's a right time and right place to have fun, and a resume is not the time nor place. It is a time to give information cleanly and encouragingly and competently. And if you want to be fun, well, maybe during the interview and maybe not. I guess I'll trust you to read the expression of the interviewer, and that could be your guide for how much fun you will have in an interview. Well, let's bring us back to the passport that brings us into the interview. Your resume is your passport. If you want an interview, do a good job making a clean one. Use plain typeface. As you can tell, I've decided to center the title issues and keep them as clean as possible. You could very easily do it that way. Notice I have an objective listed. Your objective is a statement that tells the reader which pile to put this resume in. Mind you, I know we're looking at it in an old school sense, a paper resume, hardly used anymore, except when you walk in for a job interview. You'll be carrying paper then. Carry at least 4 copies of your paper version of your resume. This is good advice in the event that your prospective interviewer or your interviewer has decided to bring 2 or 3 friends along whom have positions in the organization and also need to be satisfied. If you can hand them your resume, my goodness, then you will be, how would you say, prepared, Boy Scout ready for all eventualities. And probably you'll look darn professional. Man, that fella, that lady brought us a resume, each one of us, treated us to a resume, didn't trust the recipient of the resume to make copies. It's quite an impressive little item to carry if you're bright enough and lucky enough and perhaps fortunate enough to need one at the time. Not the first time in the world. I've been in positions where I have carried them. I've also been in positions where I've watched my superiors hiring others having lost resumes. Now, where did this fella's resume go? I've heard at least one employer say that once years ago. Where did this resume go? I don't know, but it'd probably been a good idea for the candidate to walk in with 2 or 3 extras on that day. You bet. Well, we are looking at the top elements of this resume and looking at objectives. Objectives are just a statement, a simple statement. Don't get carried away. Don't get artistic. Please just state what it is you want this to land in. What pile does this resume go in? You may have 3 or 4 other types of jobs they may be advertising for, and you want to be recognized as in this case, an aviation technician, a mechanic, whatever the job description is, you will put in the objective to apply skills and training in an entry-level position as an aviation. I'm going to put in there any word I want. In this case, aviation technician. How about that? Could be aviation mechanic, an airframe and power plant certified technician. It could be anything. Whatever the job was advertised to be, you plug that title right in here, okay? And it's simple. You end it with a period right there, right there. You put a period. That is the end of the statement. To apply skills and training as an entry-level position, in an entry-level position as an aviation mechanic, period. Now they know what pile to put this in. Let's move on to the highlight qualifications, because I said we are imagining this to work for somebody who's had no previous aviation employment. Well, that doesn't stop you. You got your skills over at our school, and that means you had the experience that you need, at least in these special activities that an A&P mechanic might bring to a job. I know, because I went through it myself. I did the same thing, had the experience in the school, then busted down a door in a little place called California, walked in, and they said no. Well, how many no's do you get before you learn no is just a yes a little bit later? Extend the time it takes them to say no. Extend the time. Hand them a resume anyway. Well, here's my resume. You know, I like planes. What is it that you like about planes? that candidate or that interviewer said to me, that interviewer who didn't have a job, what is it you like about planes? Well, I don't remember what my answer was, but I have some good answers now, having been in them a bit. So find some little anecdote. Gosh, I like, oh gosh, I don't know. I like pumping the wheels down to get 3 greens. I don't know. So many fun things that happen because of aviation. Gosh, I'm so glad I got to sit next to people as they flew, wink. And I had some really great experiences with pilot instructors or flight instructors who well, wanted me to be a student. There you go. So many cool, wonderful things because I worked in general aviation, was exposed to them. I could tell you stories. You find your own stories. There's so much fun and, well, kind of rewarding. So there you go. Highlights of your qualifications. In this case, I would probably find 5 bullets, not 4, not 6, an odd number, 5. 5 bullets. And make sure that these bullets here are bullets. They're round. Don't use squares. Use round bullets. They don't hurt as much. I don't know. Anyway, they draw your eye in to these sentence fragments. I call them sentence fragments because they don't have periods at the end. Oh, well, let's not get too pushy with this. You could put periods at the end of these, except it's not a real sentence. Solid mechanical training and practical foundation. It's, you never talk in first person. You imply that the person who has written it has these skills. You don't say, I have solid mechanical training and practical foundation. No, you're implying that that person who is I, that person is the one with those skills. It's almost a third person perspective about yourself, okay? So I'm reviewing that candidate over there. Who is I? And I'm saying these things are in that candidate's skill wheelhouse. How about that? All right, so here's the wheelhouse. Mechanical training and practical foundation. Also another bullet. Ow, there it is. Familiar with interpreting blueprints, instructions, formal documentation, and logbook entry records. Gosh, if you didn't learn all that at A&P school, you are in big trouble, okay? That's what you learn in A&P school. And you use it in general aviation in particular. It's a bit different in with the airlines, but lots and lots of this, blueprints, instructions, formal documentation, all that's true everywhere. Logbook entry is a little different over there. And in general aviation, you'll do it all the time. Sometimes you'll use a stamp, sometimes you'll write them in. Way it goes, demonstrated competence, integrating digital resources and providing assistance. Wow. Woo, digital resources. You know, I use a phone to order parts. Man, what a world you live in. Used to be, yeah, if you were lucky, you could call them. If you had the parts catalog, which most people did back then. But now you could probably order pretty well on your phone, just about any part you need. Baffles. It's baffling, isn't it? Anyway, you can highlight any number of items. I've given you 5 here, and let's move down to the next most important quality that gets you hired with a resume. The next most important quality is the most sellable quality. You've got the school you went to. Oh, heck, there were days you couldn't stand us. But you're not going to a job interview to complain about your teachers. You're not going anywhere to do that. Well, you could tell your wife. I don't know. But you've come to a job interview, you're piggybacking on the experience of of the place that granted you your A&P or was integral in granting you your A&P, and of your foundation, you're bragging. And the reason you're sitting there is because they too, the readers, are interested in you because you, yes, you have been to that school and you probably got something there. So you highlight it. Now, you may have gone to another college. You may have a master's degree. They don't make no difference. You are highlighting your most recent, most applicable education that's going to get you the job. And that, of course, is the school. And again, the end date over in the right. Now, you'll find the date attended on the left in many resumes. I say, nah, put it on the right-hand side. Why? Because it downplays the year. Put something in italics, makes it hard to read psychically. So here, the clean stuff on the left-hand side of this resume, where my cursor is bouncing around, look, all of that is very readable. It's much more important. Your eye is drawn to the left. And oh, by the way, that was in 2019, whenever that was. And oh, there may be other courses that you took at other schools. There may not be, but if you did over there, let's try to lose our high school if we can. But if that's the most recent school you've been to, and it was recent and it doesn't cause any problems to talk about the experience, well, then putting it in there is another good old solution. But as you can see, if it's been too far away, too far removed from your airframe and power plant diploma, well, then perhaps you're going to start creating more questions in the form of, what did you do between the year 2010 and 2019? What did you do? And then you have to start talking about that stuff instead of talking about aviation, which is what will make the money for you. It's fun. You'll talk about something you may even like. I hope so. Like if you've worked on planes, where you went to school, don't they count as knowledge about planes? Hey, that might make your resume look good. I think that these planes here, talked about here, are what every student has gone through and every student is aware of. So therefore, why not let's make a nice little element to this resume and make some mention of the types of planes you worked on. Might be something. There's undoubtedly at a school some Pipers or some Cessnas around, and you probably did before you graduate. You'll definitely do some a gear swing. You'll do inspections. You'll do all kinds of magneto activities, and you'll just have all kinds of experiences with these different airplanes, different models. I know that in this one here, we list something of a Aero Commander. Many students start that thing up and have some experience with that. The Cessnas they have a gear retraction with one of our Cessnas. It's a what is a 100 series plane, right? So a 172 with an RG, man, that is kind of a weird bird. It's just one of 9 other types of 172s that are very much talked about in your TCDS. So it's kind of a rare bird. Hey, you know something about 100 series Cessnas. Heck, I know several planes in the Cessna category. 100 series, 200 series, 300 series, 400 series, hike. Hey, and don't forget that you've worked on all of these other spectacular challenges. Here in your aircraft element, you might do that. If you need an element to sort of thicken this up, to capture our eye, to make something to talk about, to give them an interest in you, to spend time with your interviewer, to feel good with your interview, then put some element that says, I love planes. For goodness sake, that aircraft element will do that. Oh, you may have experience in general aviation, huh? You might not. You might be working, putting radios in for some repair shop. You might not be. You may have only experience at Chuck E. Cheese. I don't know what your experience is. That's why I push experience all the way down to the bottom. It is not your selling point if you've never been in aviation employment. It is not your selling point. We push experience to the bottom of our resume unless we're experienced in education, unless you're experienced in aviation, you're not going to put that at the very top. Well, gosh, a lot of air. Oh, so you can't lose experience. But you can't make your experience raise more questions than it answers. You have to give them a chance with the material here. So if you have some small experience in aviation, that's sort of what this resume says. Well, here's a pretend resume and some experience that seems appropriate to it. I have students who are working in the field, working in repair shops. They have a little job here, a very significant job. Nothing wrong with a small job to start on. I can't name any manufacturers and the like, but even if the pay ain't great, the experience is a knockout, and it's very sellable to the A&P job that you may be getting. Also, you may not have any A&P experience. Hey, then we put them in and we hope they don't create more questions than answers. Finally, if you need another element to make it a good looking resume, here at the bottom, I have a supplemental. Now, a supplement is a supplement. It's something you can add, you don't have to add. But here's a way to thicken up a resume. If all you have is high school experience, high education, you went to an aviation school, you don't have anything particularly relevant, you worked at Chuck E. Cheese, and don't make that too big a deal, but you want to add something like your aircraft that you've worked on. You'll recall all the aircraft you worked on at the school. You'll put it in a nice light, and then maybe you'll add a supplement. Maybe you are fluent in Ruski. Может быть, вы говорите по-русски. Or maybe you speak Espanol. I don't know. Maybe you speak Spanish. I am not sure. Maybe you habla it. And perhaps you are equally fluent in English. List English first. Okay. English and Russian, English and Spanish, English and, gosh, who knows? There's so many fun things to have been raised in. And then don't forget them. If you have Tagalog, then put English and Tagalog. Gosh, for goodness sake, that is a quality supplement. Oh, I'm running out of ideas here, but I think being a non-smoker is a good idea. Your health being particularly good is a nice thing for an employer to read. If they get all the way down to the bottom here and they're still talking to you, you are doing well. So please give them a chance with you. They might even like you. Go figure. A job is something of an interviewer liking you. To some extent, let that happen. Let the interviewer like you. For goodness sake, he or she may see you for another 5 to 10 years. Gosh, during a job interview, let that person like you. More on job interviews next.